Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Chester McNeil. Ian remains a hurricane out in the Atlantic Ocean headed toward South Carolina, but impacting North and South Carolina with all the heavy rain, that storm surge, and of course those winds that are out there. The rain at least is pulling away from our area, but the winds will still be dealing with those. So that will be our effect from the storm for winds. Now you have that area of low pressure there around the hurricane, and then out to our west we have an area of high pressure, and so the two combining, keeping those breezy conditions in the area, in fact windy in some spots. So that's what we'll have to watch out for over the next couple of days, today especially with the wind advisory that's in the area, and I'll show you that in just a few. Right now I just want to show you what's taking place out there with this hurricane. And now again, still a hurricane, category 1. Could it strengthen? It's possible, but for the most part we'll just be looking at a level 1 or category 1 hurricane in the area. Now, not as well an eye, well-defined eye, as we'll say. That circulation now just about to our far north county. It's almost adjacent to Tybee Island. Still associated with this storm is far up there toward North Carolina right now, and they're going to have at least the rest of the afternoon to go through that with that storm continue to push due north. And so it's always with the north trek of it, the right front quadrant of the storm, that it bears the brunt of the impacts. And so that's what we're seeing mainly over toward the east. So we'll have to continue to watch out for that. For us, you notice how the rain is pulling away from the coastline. So the all the way down to Putnam County, which includes Edenton. It's in those areas there that we could see winds up to 20 to 30 miles per hour. That's sustained winds that we're talking about, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds in this particular area. And with winds that's steady, could blow around maybe some loose limbs on trees. If we have loose items, or if you have loose items in your backyard, for example, if there's any tools around, things like that, they could become as projectiles, especially in 40 mile per hour gusts. And that's what we're expecting in this storm. Again, mainly for these highlighted counties here is where you're seeing that. But in the metro area down through Peachtree over toward Rome, still a breezy day for us. Some would call it windy. We're still looking at winds in this area, we'll say 10 to 15 miles per hour, and the gusts could be in the 20 mile per hour range. But it's over toward the east where we'll see the stronger winds. I think those winds will be strong for this morning into Possibility for wind gusts in that pink, in the purple area, above 40 miles per hour. All right, and so some of our far eastern counties will experience that. You're going down to about a good 30 to 40 mile per hour winds in that red to orange area there, where you can see over toward Athens. We're talking about 30 mile per hour gusts, and this is as of right now. These are the gusts that have been clocked in the area. In the metro, up to about 20 is what we're going to find as we head throughout much of the day. Now, notice by tonight, through the wee hours of the morning on Saturday, as that area of low pressure or the remnants now of Ian continue to slide further off to the north, the winds have died down a bit. Still a bit breezy, where you can see some of that red in there, a little bit of yellow, but it becomes a little bit more patchy. So you're looking at those gusts in the 20 mile per hour range in a lot of spots, especially at on Saturday. Just gusty winds. Now, as far as the rainfall goes, our rain gauge shows not much of rain at all, even over into our east. So our far eastern counties, as you can see, anywhere from about a half an inch to about an inch of rainfall, but that's our counties closer to the border between Georgia and South Carolina is where you're going to find that. So we're not talking about much in the way of rainfall. In fact, it's not even adding up anything in the metro area. Now, even though it's not showing that, there is the possibility for some rain east over here toward Athens, but could move a little bit further to the west, and then up here to the north as well. You see Clayton showing at least a trace of some rain coming down, but most of the area will stay on the dry side for today. That rain remains over toward the east, and keep in mind that we are on the left side of the storm, and so you're talking about offshore flow for us. Not a lot of rain on that back side. It's mainly up to the north of the storm and over toward the northeast of the storm. Carolina are being battered by that as we speak. So this is going to wind up meaning a pleasant weekend for us as far as the weather goes. The temperatures will be in the low 70s. I think we will have a couple clouds around, especially in the morning on Saturday. So that'll keep our temperatures down into the low 70s. And keep in mind, we should be closer to the 80-degree mark this time of year. We'll see those temperatures in the low 70s, and we won't get back to those temperatures closer to 80 until we head into next week. All right, I want to go back to the graphics here. I do want to show you once again the path of the storm and also what we can expect. Again, this is the latest update from the Hurricane Center. Category 1 hurricane at 85 mile per hour winds. By this afternoon, after about 2 or 3 o'clock, the storm will make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane that will be up into the Georgetown area, the low-lying country of South Carolina, up toward Myrtle Beach. And notice everything, even though we say that landfall just north of Charleston, everything to the right of that. So up toward Hilton Head, for example, Myrtle Beach, those areas will be the right front quadrant of the storm, and so they're receiving that onshore flow now even more once we get to the afternoon as the strongest winds start to move closer to the coastline. You talk about those 85 mile per hour winds, now sustained winds, now moving closer to the coastline, so they'll be going through it. That red that you see there all along the coast is a hurricane warning in effect for that particular area. That blue adjacent to it that's over our coastline is a tropical storm warning, and so on the back side of this we are experiencing those winds up to tropical storm criteria. That continues to slide to the north. You notice how it begins to weaken somewhat down to a tropical storm by the time it hits the border between South Carolina and North Carolina. So now headed a little bit closer to the central areas of North Carolina, and then headed further to the north, almost into Virginia as it begins to dissipate. But the models are showing us that the area of low pressure may meander around just a little bit there. Again, at this particular time, Saturday morning, as it's making its way through northern parts of South Carolina, we could see some of the rain toward the west. Now, with this more northerly track that it's on now, the latest track from the Hurricane Center, I think we'll be hard pressed to really find that rain around. I don't think we're going to see much rain at all. If you look at the center of circulation right now, it's again adjacent to our northernmost coastline there between the border of South Carolina, South Carolina and Georgia. That area of low pressure continues to spin up to the far north, bringing in a lot of that moisture. You see that moisture plume? Come back out on camera real quick here. I want to show him this OC real quick. Here's a lot of that rain here. Notice this plume right here that keeps regenerating, that's where you got that onshore flow. This is the right front quadrant of the storm. Center of circulation here, that right front quadrant here. So the brunt of the storm right now, even into parts of North Carolina, Nags Head area, that's where you're experiencing some of the gustiest winds and that onshore flow. And as that begins to push inland, it experiences some friction, and certainly no doubt you can see some tornadoes begin to pop up in this particular area. I would say the same for South Carolina, not our coastline of it. So you've got the offshore flow coming in. We still have some wet weather over toward the Tybee Island area, so our extreme northern portions of our coastline still going through the rain, maybe up to another inch of rainfall falling in that particular area where already flooding has taken place. Our southernmost coast headed down toward the Jacksonville area, not receiving much at all, again, as the storm is pulling away. That area or center of circulation right about there. We'll continue to slide further off to the north, again, making landfall probably by this afternoon. That would be the second landfall with this particular hurricane, moving just to the north of the Charleston area. So Georgetown, Myrtle Beach area, that's where we'll see that second landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. Where it will dissipate after that. Okay, and so again, not much of a rainmaker for us, but we talked about the winds, the wind advisory lasting until 8 o'clock tonight. You can see the highlighted counties right here behind me. We're talking Fanning, Gilmer, Pickens County eastward, and then over toward our east. So Gainesville is included in that, in Hall County, Athens included in it, Clark County, and also down toward Edenton and Putnam County. Between 20, 25, maybe up to 30 miles per hour. They can blow around some of those trees, and some of those trees already weakened because we've had those gusts in the area so far the last couple of days, and today will be no different. Any loose objects that are lying around could act as projectiles. So again, be very, very careful in the wind advisory area, expecting this to begin to die down once we head into the evening. Now for the metro area, you're looking at sustained winds up to 15 miles per hour. Gusts will be in the 20 mile per hour range. Certainly sustainable, but creates well, a bit of a hold on to your hat kind of a day. And those winds will be off and on as we head through much of the day. You can see the gust now, the strongest over toward the east, where we have some of that purple and that orange in there. You're talking about gusts up to 30 and 40 miles per hour. Further to the west, back toward the Atlanta metro area, you see teens for the most part, but through the day, that'll fluctuate off and on as we see the gust in the 20 mile per hour range at times. A little less as we head into the weekend, further into the weekend, but we will have a few clouds around. So for your Saturday, we're still looking at breezy conditions during the afternoon under partly to mostly sunny skies. Temperature, hold on to that for Sunday as well. It won't be until we get to next week that we'll start to see finally our temperatures get back to where they should be for this time of year. Man, we have gone through this. Ian has made its way up through Cuba as a Category 2 hurricane, crossing that peninsula, and then strengthened to a Category 4 hurricane as it moved further off to the north toward the southwest Florida coastline there, where it made landfall around the 3 o'clock hour on Wednesday, trekked right across the peninsula, weakened down to a tropical storm, jumped back out into the ocean over the Atlantic waters where it is right now, and became a hurricane once again. So this, no doubt, going down in history, likely to be one of the more deadly hurricanes for the state of Florida, maybe even one of the more powerful hurricanes to touch down in that area as well. And so now down to a Category 1, still has some time over the open waters there, but likely to remain a Category 1 and may get up to a Category 2 briefly before going back down, before making its way further off to the expecting another landfall, the second landfall for Ian to be over into South Carolina area as a Category 1 hurricane, packing winds up to about 85 miles per hour. That storm surge continues for North Carolina, and that will be the case as we head through the afternoon into tonight as well, until the storm makes landfall and makes its way further off to the north where things will dissipate. Expect winds around here for the most part, unless you're one of our counties closer to the border of South Carolina. That's where you'll get some of those light showers that will take place later this afternoon and tonight, and then a pleasant weekend on tap for us. Get a chance to take a breath and enjoy.